Hi there, Jean Greer here at Stylish Fireplaces. Over the past 20 plus years, we have installed thousands of electric fireplaces. So we know how to install them, and we know what some of our clients are missing when they install their own or when they have somebody install it for them. So we've put together our 10 pro tips for installing an electric fireplace. These are general tips that will apply to any electric fireplace installation. I've broken it into two separate videos. So the first video will have 5 tips, and then we'll do another video with 5 more tips. So let's start with the basics. Read the owner's manual. The owner's manual has all of the most accurate measurements. It will tell you exactly what size to frame your opening. It takes into account the clearances needed around the fireplace for maybe the power or the little screws that are all around the outside. It has taken all of that into consideration, so you don't have to think about it. You don't have to take measurements of the fireplace. The manufacturer has determined the right framed opening for you, and you will find all of those details there. You'll find electrical information, everything you need to know about how to install and operate the fireplace and different installation situations. So it's all there in the manual. Do check the owner's manual before you get started. The next would be to decide if your fireplace is going to be recessed or surface mounted. They aren't necessarily interchangeable. A recessed fireplace is going to go into this opening and sit flush with this wall. A surface mounted fireplace, as it sounds, would be sitting on the wall surface. So we wouldn't have a hole like this. The fireplace would be hung on the wall. They aren't necessarily going to be doable with the same fireplace. So not every recessed fireplace can be mounted on the wall. And certainly not every wall-mounted fireplace can be inserted into the wall. You do need to go back to that owner's manual and check to see which installation methods have been approved for that particular fireplace. On the very basic level, if it's going to be in the wall, the heat needs to be coming out the front of the fireplace. But that in and of itself doesn't determine whether the fireplace has been designed to be inserted into the wall. There can be other reasons why a fireplace is not designed to be inserted into the wall that you may or may not be able to see, so you do need to check that. Fireplaces are tested and rated for safe installation based on the manufacturer's assertions about the installation. So if they say this fireplace is not to be inserted into the wall, it's never tested for safety inserted in the wall. It is tested for insertion or hanging on the wall. So you do need to be careful about knowing. Don't guess about that. Do check the manual and see which installations are approved, recessed or surface mounted. And not every fireplace that can go into the wall has provided brackets for hanging on the wall, even though in theory it would function just fine. If the manufacturer hasn't thought about that, they haven't provided any sort of hanging mechanism to put it on the wall surface. And so that in itself would preclude you from being able to do that. So recessed or surface mount, you need to know that ahead of time. Then you want to find out if your fireplace is built in or slide in. And this is a bit of a tricky distinction, but a slide in fireplace would slide into this opening and it would have some sort of flange that would overlap the edges of the opening, but it would go in at the end of the process. I've made my opening, I've covered my wall, and I'm going to put the fireplace in last. A built-in fireplace still goes into the wall, but it's going to sit in this framed opening before I put my wall materials on, and then I'm going to bring my wall materials over part of the firebox up to the viewing window. So you need to plan ahead for that installation, obviously, and it also affects the electrical connections that are possible when you have a slide-in unit that can be removed versus a built-in unit that cannot be removed. And keep in mind, they can all be serviced without removing them from the wall, but the electrical connection will vary and there will be some important distinctions about how you can connect a fireplace that can be removed from the wall, which could be plugged in because I can access the receptacle, versus one that's partially covered by the wall materials, a built-in, I wouldn't be able to access the electrical connection after installation. And so that would have to be a hard wire. So those are really important distinctions to know before you go ahead and frame that fireplace. And also it's a different, slightly more complex framing and installation for a built-in unit versus a slide-in unit. And if you're installing it yourself, you need to understand that, or your contractor needs to know about that as well. Our next tip would be that to let you know that a multi-sided fireplace can be installed as a single-sided fireplace. And we're starting to see this trend in our showroom here. What people like about a multi-sided fireplace is it is always a built-in fireplace. And when you have a built-in fireplace, you don't need a big trim around the edges of the window. You're going to bring your wall materials right up to the edges of the window. And some people really like that frameless effect. Multi-sided fireplaces are also deeper than a regular linear fireplace, and so that extra depth can add to the realism. And so what we're seeing is that people are buying a multi-sided fireplace and then blocking the ends, which can be done on any of our multi-sided fireplaces. The panels come available to block the ends so that you can create a two-sided L, or you can create a single-sided with both of the end glasses blocked off. So that gives you that deeper frameless installation. So it is possible to take a multi-sided electric and make it a single-sided installation. So do keep that in mind. It's something to open up the options for you when you're looking at your electric fireplaces. And last but not least for this video, confirm your framing depth. So if you only have a 2x4 wall and you don't have any extra depth and you're trying to put it into an existing 2x4 wall, make sure the fireplace that you're getting will sit flush in a 2x4 wall, because that's considered extra slim, and there are models that will do that. If you prefer a slightly deeper 6-inch model, you're going to have to make sure that there's a trim available for the semi-flush installation. So you can put the back 4 inches into your wall, and then you would have a special trim kit that would cover up the 2 inches that would be hanging out of the wall, and it would make it look finished. So if you've got extra depth, you could also be looking at opening up your options to deeper electric fireplaces and not restricting yourselves to the slim ones. So do know what your framing depth can be, or if you're limited by an existing wall, what is the framing depth there, so that you can find the right fireplace. Do not assume that you can put that all of our 6-inch fireplaces, for instance, have a semi-flush trim kit. They do not all have that option. And so you don't want to assume that there's going to be a way to cover up anything that sticks out of the wall. You need to check that ahead of time. So those are our first 5 pro tips. Check our other video for the last 5 and let us know if you have any questions. And if you are looking for an owner's manual, you can always go to stylishfireplaces.ca, search up the product that you have, and on our product pages, you'll always find an installation link.